for the debate. I recognize the member for Thunder Bay Superior North.
Thank you very much, Speaker. And I must say, I've heard a lot of claims made in this House about how expanding Billy Bishop Airport is somehow going to help us in Northern Ontario. A plus B does not equal C. A jet is not going to land in Wawa. A jet is not going to land in Wawa. How on earth is this facilitating travel from our region? I hope people understand that. I also hear the North. The North. The North is a very big place. It's not just one place. So when you talk about the Northlander making everything better for people in the North, do you know what? We have no passenger rail service in Thunder Bay. We have not had it since the Mulroney government. You know how we get passenger rail service? We drive 4 hours on a bush road up to Armstrong if we want to get rail service. So there are so many claims made that have no connection to reality. So I'd like to talk about, and we at the pre-budget hearings, we had a wonderful presentation by Tom Mayer, who is the chair of the Northern Aviation Committee. And I want to note that the member from Kiiwetinoong explained to us this morning that the Ministry of Transportation Remote Airport Office in Thunder Bay walked away from the Northern Ontario Aviation Committee. It's a very, very important committee. I can tell you that Tom Mayer, who's chair of that committee, and he also owns North Star Air, is trying very hard to get all levels of government together to actually problem solve about the smaller airports in the north. So talk about medical access. People from Kiiwetinoong can't even get out of their communities. They can't get out of their communities in order to get access to health care. And you think that Billy Bishop is going to change that? You're out of your minds. We were talking about tiny little shoebox offices and gravel runways that are too short. They're already too short now to lift the payload when they want to take supplies out of those communities. And people are often stranded without being able to get access to medical care, even in Thunder Bay. They would be going to Thunder Bay, Sudbury, Sault Ste. Marie, depending on what the condition is, or perhaps to Toronto. Assuming they can get out of their communities, the means are actually already there to get to Toronto. Now, for those of us living on highways in different parts, it's still very difficult to get to a centre. And you've got to drive on, in my region, on highways 11 and 17. And we've heard many times the difficulties. And you're on those highways for a long period of time. But do you think expanding Billy Bishop Airport is going to change that, is going to help with that? How about taking that $5 billion and actually twinning those highways? How about taking some of that money to increase the safety along the Highway 11 corridor where there's not a single passing lane? People can't even get from their community. Some people have to walk along Highway 11 to get to buy groceries. People have died on that corridor trying to walk down the street because it is the Trans-Canada Highway. I could also tell you that one of the grandmothers hurt on that stretch in front of Long Lake 58. 19 broken bones. Insurance company is still trying to claim that it was not a catastrophic injury. That's just kind of things that go on and affect people in a real way. I might add that in our region, 2 head-on commercial truck collisions in the last 2 weeks with deaths. This is what we're seeing all the time, and yet we hear Billy Bishop is going to save us in the north. Billy Bishop is going to get us health care that we don't have. It's such nonsense. I've been so disappointed to hear Northern members repeating whatever's been fed to them because there's so little reality to it. It's fantasy. Now, I'm going to read a little bit from Tom Mayer's presentation because I think it's important. He says, so he's talking about the 27 airports in Northern Ontario that have one person staffing them. They need a minimum of 3, according to Tom, to run effectively. Because if there's only one person and they're sick, there's no airport. There's nobody to open the airport. And again, the runways are deficient. So these deficits have real consequences, he told the Legislature's Standing Committee on Finance and Economic Affairs. Medical patients are stranded, essential medication is delayed, food is delayed, medevac flights unable to land, preventable loss of life. This is not theoretical. This is happening today in Ontario and in real communities who depend on us to keep them safe. Yet these lifelines are failing, mayors said. All of these airports are outdated, non-compliant with current regulations, and incapable of supporting future growth. It's not a new problem. It's been deteriorating for decades. I don't even know. This was actually the member from Kiwetanong during the hearing said, I don't even call them airports, I call them airstrips because they're gravel runways. That is so 1950s, and that's the way First Nations are treated in this province. So again, according to Mayor, runways are too short, narrow, they're not being maintained properly, gaps in weather reporting, insufficient on-site services like de-icing, fueling and emergency response, not enough general staffing, and small, outdated terminal buildings which don't have proper screening in structure. As I said, most are staffed by one person on a full-time basis, weekdays only, despite the fact that there's a 24/7 medevac operation, a regularly scheduled operation, and demands beyond a 9-to-5 job. This is unsafe, unsustainable, and frankly, unacceptable. And yet here we are talking about how expanding Billy Bishop is going to make life better for people in the north. As I say, this is a fantasy based on somebody's financial interest, but certainly not for people in northeastern or northwestern Ontario. Yes. I've heard a lot of people from other parts of Ontario waxing poetic about how great it's going to be to fly into Toronto and visit all the great attractions in Toronto. Well, guess what? All this investment into the waterfront that has been made over years that's made the waterfront such a fantastic tourist destination, well, you're trashing it. Who is going to, you have a quality of life that's actually pretty good for people living in downtown Toronto, which you want to trash by increasing pollution levels and certainly increasing noise levels. So I want to talk about noise. And I know a fair bit about noise because I was a symphony musician in another life. And I play a brass instrument. They can be very loud. And I sat in front of the trumpet section. And things I read about the volume of jets, even though they may be quieter than they were in the past, but I got most of my information from looking at actually the Pearson Airport discussion about noise levels. So it's like sitting in front of a trumpet section, which is quite painful, I can tell you. And that's why we have sound baffles and we often wear earplugs. And of course, it's limited. But if you've got 85 to 110 decibels happening, I don't care whether it's every 2 minutes or every 10 minutes, that has a physiological effect on people, on their bodies. And let me read some of the things. Jet aircraft flying low overhead easily exceed 85 to 100 decibels on the ground. Over time, this level of repetitive exposure can lead to noise-induced hearing loss. According to public health guidelines, chronic exposure to loud, low-altitude aircraft noise triggers the release of cortisol and adrenaline. This can increase the risk of high blood pressure, heart disease, and severe anxiety. Sleep deprivation. A jet passing every 2 minutes prevents deep restorative sleep. This level of disruption leads to sleep fragmentation, which has cumulative effects on cognitive function. Health outcomes. Long-term sleep deprivation from ongoing noise can result in chronic fatigue, weakened immune systems, and impaired memory consolidation. And then there's disrupted communication, outdoor conversations, classroom instruction, and workplace meetings, constantly interrupted by the sound of jets. Property values. Housing markets near high-traffic flight paths often experience decreased property valuations and slower sales due to the desirability drop-off. Wildlife and pets. Domestic pets and local wildlife have highly sensitive hearing. Continuous jet noise can cause extreme distress, behavioral changes, or even self-injuries in animals. And I've also found some things that, so somebody commenting on living close to the Dublin airport says aircraft noise is harming their health. A new report estimates the human health cost at nearly €800, citing issues like high blood pressure, heart problems. That's what we have constantly, every 2 minutes. This is the reality for many living near Dublin airport. So, and we know that the pollution will increase. It really does. I find it confusing, mind-numbing, to imagine having that sound again and again and again. And what they said about Pearson is that, you know, the longer the further away the airplane is, well, the less the sound is going to be, unless it's reflecting off a surface, in which case you're still going to get an awful lot of noise. But the thing is about Billy Bishop is that they're going to be coming in close to where everybody's living. It's not like it's somewhere out, further out, where there's room for long runways and where people can gradually come in. They're coming in right over where people are recreating, where people are living. And I can't imagine it's like having somebody scratch the blackboard again and again and again. You know what's going to happen to your nervous system. It's going to go ballistic. And you're not going to be well, and you want to get out of there, and it's not going to be a desirable place to go. And I really wonder, for a government that likes to talk about supporting small business, how they can justify undermining all of the small and medium-sized businesses that make their livings in that corridor near the airport. And it's not just immediately in front of the airport. We know that their planes are going to be coming in over a significant section of the waterfront. Now, I'm looking for my other notes. Yep. Yes, here we go. So there's certainly financial reasons. We don't have a business case for this airport. We hear a whole bunch of numbers. I have no idea where they come from. So the Port Authority apparently has provided some. The Port Authority has also got an economic interest in this. I don't consider the Port Authority to be an unbiased advocate. But regardless, it's the Port Authority that has said $5 billion, which is about $900 per person. I really question the claim that this is not going to cost taxpayers money. Their P3s usually work out as public investment, private profit. It stretches credulity, I think, to imagine that this enormous project is not going to cost taxpayers. In the meantime, we are investing at Pearson Airport, and there's a $3 billion investment there that will take far more passengers that Billy Bishop is predicted to be able to take. So why on earth are we doing this? We've invested in the train. That's a very rapid transportation from the airport into downtown Toronto. and you don't have to ruin the lives of people living in Toronto to do it. Again, I wonder at what I see as self-interest and selfishness, frankly, and fantasy, to think that people in other parts of the province think that they're going to come into Toronto, join the enormous, and there won't be an enormous traffic jam, even though the norm is now getting to Billy Bishop is an enormous traffic jam. There is nowhere else for traffic to go. So I consider all of this a fantasy, and yet it's going to be so great for us. It's going to improve my life in Eastern Ontario, in Western Ontario, in Northern Ontario. Based on what? Seriously, based on what? We're going to have jets landing, as I say, we're going to have a jet landing in Wawa, we're going to have a jet landing in Long Lac, and suddenly people can get medical care faster. It's absurd, right? That will never happen. And for heaven's sake, why not repair and modernize those airports further north? Don't forget, this government has all of these ambitions about mining in the north. Well, guess what? Some of those mines are going to be near some of those communities that have these tiny little airports that have not been maintained for years. That's going to be a bit of a surprise, isn't it? When they're not going to be landing jets there. Right now, they're having trouble landing turboprops there, but they should be able to. The airport, the location of the airport is very small. Again, where on earth is the traffic going to go? The extended runway take an incredible amount of engineering and, frankly, an incredible amount of fill. And imagine the years of dump trucks bringing in fill into Lake Ontario. By the way, you are going to ruin the boating use of the lake, which is significant, the leisure craft use. And then the plan is to expropriate everything anyway. And once they've done that, well, guess what? So the school that's over there, who cares, right? The kids won't be able to learn anything. It'll be too loud for them. And then, well, there's going to be a lot of extra real estate there. And we know how the Premier loves to create opportunities for his friends to buy prime real estate. We've seen that far too often. It's unnecessary. It's not safe. We know that jets suck in birds, and that we know that there are several bird sanctuaries out on Tommy Thompson, for example, and breeding areas. Now, we often get the impression that this government couldn't care less about wildlife, but frankly, those birds can be sucked into the engines, and at that moment you are going to care, unless you're planning on decimating those bird colonies. The health impacts are significant. It's an incredible waste of money. There's lots of building that can be done that would actually help people in the entire vast area of Northern Ontario if the government were willing to put some of this money, and it's not even that much. I think what was needed, I think it was about $24 million over 10 years that Tom Mayer was asking for. And then there is the follow the money. The primary beneficiary is J.P. Morgan's subsidiary, Newport Aviation, and they're not making enough money right now, and that is one of the motivations for expanding the airport. They're not happy, and heck, if we can make an American investor happier, apparently that's on the agenda for this government. So I only have a few seconds left. There's probably a lot more I can say. But if for no other reason, and there are many reasons, the sound levels, which is something I really wanted to talk about, will hurt people. They will make it extremely uncomfortable to recreate, to have dinner, to do anything, frankly, on the waterfront with that sound level over your head constantly. Thank you very much, Speaker, and that's what I'd like to say.
Question. I recognize the member for Toronto St. Paul's.
Thank you for the debate. I wanted to go in a little bit more, being from the north, you know, of what you speak, and the whole contention that this is going to just make huge improvements to that health care and transportation that is so desperately needed for people in the north. You've got some connections, you've heard experts speak in the field. Explain to us again how that just doesn't ring true, that expanding Billy Bishop will help the health care of the people in the north.
Response.
Thank you very much for the question. And I have to say, I can't, it's a mystery to me because, and that's where I said A plus B does not equal C. There is no way that jets will be landing in our small communities. Zero possibility. In the meantime, we could be spending more money to educate more healthcare workers. We could be spending money to make the highways safer. We've lost at least 2 doctors on that highway in the time that I've lived there. We could be investing in those northern airports so that people can get out of their communities and actually access health care. We could be investing in those communities and having the health care on site in those communities. There's just no connection between the claims and the lived reality in northern communities. Thank you for the question.
Question. I recognize the member for Mississauga, Erin Mills.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I would like to thank our colleague from the opposition. I have been listening to all your debate. And before I ask my question, I would like to mention something just for the records. I know more than 10 plus doctors or pharmacists who are locum, who are using Bishop Airport to go to the northern areas of Ontario every week, not every month, every week. So if we are saying that there is no relation, I can prove the relation to you. And I can prove that all those locum doctors who are easy to move from Toronto to any northern small village or small community are going to get less. My question is, what is the alternative and why you are attacking the whole idea when we didn't touch yet the changes of the...
Response.
Speaker, and it's an interesting question because, frankly, those locums are already coming to the region. They already have that capacity to do it, and if they really want to be faster, they can take the jet from Pearson and also get to Thunder Bay. Now you save 20 minutes, but it takes longer to get to Pearson, but whatever. They are already doing that. Expanding Billy Bishop does nothing to improve or change that situation.
I recognize the member for Nickel Belt.
Thank you, Speaker. We have mentioned a number of times.
I'm trying to do questions and response.
We have mentioned a number of times that there are 27 gravel runways in Northern Ontario where at some point you can't land. In other airports, they come and check the airports every 4 hours, the airstrip, to make sure you can land. In Northern Ontario, you often can't because there's a pothole and it won't be fixed till the next day. Do you think that the government has a role to play to make sure that the gravel airstrip in Northern Ontario are better maintained and paved? This is 2026, not 1955, and we should be able to land on paved highway.
Question.
Do you see this as helping Northern Ontario more than building Billy Bishop?
Response.
Thank you very much, Speaker, and thank you to the member from Nickel Belt. Yes, I mean, those airports need to be brought up to standard so that they are reliable. I don't know that members don't realize that we don't even have reliable weather service at those airports. Okay, so they may not even be able to tell what's going on. And yes, there's only one person working there. There's nobody to do maintenance if that one person can't do it. Again, potholes, gravel, too short, runways that are too short right now to be able to carry anything when they're leaving the community. It's very dodgy. And the government, and you know what? The province manages those airports. The province is actually 100% responsible for those airports, and it's pretty shocking. Actually, I understand that the minister didn't know that a few months ago. It's really shocking that there is no investment going into those airports and that there are these fallacious arguments about what Billy Bishop is going to do for health care in the north.
I recognize the member for Markham Unionville.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, from time to time, the opposition has voted against infrastructure investment that strengthen Ontario's economy, improve connectivity, and supporting long-term growth. This legislation is about keeping Ontario competitive at a time when jurisdictions around the world are investing in modern infrastructure to attract jobs and businesses. This project could support approximately 23,000 construction jobs, generate up to $140 billion on economic output over 25 years, increase competition, and give travelers more choices and more affordable options. Speaker, through you, I ask the member opposite, do they believe the creation of thousands of good-paying jobs and strengthening Ontario's economy is reckless, or they are simply opposed to building the infrastructure our government and our province needs?
Response.
It is redundant infrastructure, I believe, in Toronto, but I can tell you where we need infrastructure. Highway 11, Highway 17, Highway 69, 27 airports in Kiiwetinoong and Northern Ontario. That is where we need infrastructure funding, and guess what? That would produce a lot of jobs. So I do not accept the argument that suddenly there's going to be all this economic growth. We already have the infrastructure here, and we are already investing in expanding Pearson Airport. That airport is fully capable of taking any size airplane. So why would we ruin the lives of people who live in Toronto, who with the entire City Council of Toronto has said no? Right. What are you doing?
Response.
And why are you taking away our right to actually decide what's going to happen in our own community?
Question. I recognize the member for Spadina Fort York.
I want to thank the member from Thunder Bay for speaking up today. You know, this is an absolutely ridiculous waste of money. This government's proposing to waste $5 billion expanding the Billy Bishop Airport, putting jets in the waterfront, having jets land or take off every 2.5 minutes, 200 meters from an elementary school. In what planet is that possibly safe? And so what I'm proposing, what we would propose, is that let's take that $5 billion, let's invest it in the north. And my suggestions, and I'll ask the member from Thunder Bay if these are good suggestions, let's pave the runways at the 19 airports in Northern Ontario that have gravel runways. Sorry? 27 runways that have gravel runways. Let's expand. Let's twin Highway 69. Let's expand Highway 11 to make them safer. Let's expand the services of the Northern Ontario School of Medicine so that you're actually training local doctors to stay in the north so that you can provide medical services in the north. And let's expand the hospitals. Is that not a better use of the $5 billion?
Response.
Thank you to the member for that question. I think clearly it is a better use of the money. It's a more logical use of the money. And to the suggestions you've made about creating more spaces in the Northern Medical School, and I would also like to be thinking about infrastructure within Northern communities themselves, within First Nations communities where it is often very difficult to even get access to a nurse. And so that needs to be a part of that plan as well. But there are infinitely better ways of spending $5 billion to develop really important infrastructure for the people of Ontario. And it's beyond me why this has become this
response.
No, Well, and they don't like Toronto either. They don't like Torontonians. And they're perfectly happy to bring extreme noise